All right. Hello and welcome, everyone. Before we get into today's video, we have a sponsor for today's video, and that sponsor is The Ridge. As you probably know from our previous spots, they make high-quality wallets using metal and elastic, and with Father's Day on the way, they make the perfect gift for the father or father figure in your life. I've used and loved them for years, and I'm happy to say I'll be switching into one of the new premium designs between Damascus Steel and Forged Ember. And if you'd like to purchase one as a gift, even if that gift is to yourself, you can head over to theridge.com/brozime and use code brozime at checkout to get 10% off and help support the channel. Thanks so much to The Ridge for sponsoring us yet again, and let's get into the video. All right. Hello and welcome, everyone. So it is time to talk about the weapons that came with the Astilla Prime. And we have the Astilla and the Volnus to discuss. And right off the bat here, I'm just going to go ahead and just, not bury the lead here. These weapons are fine. They're totally, absolutely serviceable enough weapons that you can absolutely use. Let's just point out, just to start here, though, that the Astilla Prime, in terms of statistical differences from the regular Astilla, has 4% more critical chance and 4% more status chance, has a heftier magazine size, plus 50% to the magazine size is pretty good. And then we have about 50 more damage in terms of its increase to just general damage when you're just, your regular shots. All that together means that it's totally fine. It's a totally fine weapon that can absolutely be serviceable, but the regular Astilla is not aging well. It has not aged well, and it's a thing that you can use, but probably should not use. And this weapon does okay. Because of all of the slash procs that you will get from this weapon, because it is weighted slash, and because the status chance is decent, you will get a lot of status procs of slash on here, and that can help you get through higher level enemy armor. And the AoE, like the regular Astilla, is nice because you're at least getting some additional damage from hitting enemies that are next to other enemies and multiplying your damage up just by the aspect of the grouping of the enemies. So with Warframes such as like Vauban or any Warframe that has Larva, you're going to be able to get a pretty good amount of damage out of the Astilla. The build, very, very simple. The only thing that's really new here, I guess, is Prime Chilling Grasp is a relatively recent addition to the game. But otherwise, this should look pretty familiar. We do still go crit. I like Vigilante Armaments. You could, I will say, instead of going Vigilante Armaments, you could go for Hunter Munitions. And that will maybe help you a little bit on stuff like Steel Path against armor and things. But I really think that you should take something that's not this weapon for those types of enemies. And the extra multi-shot here is going to both give you more of those slash procs and just more shots in general to help at your more normal levels of enemy that you're going to be encountering. But of course, feel free to just go Hunter Munitions if you just really need every possible slash proc to get through that armor, because the general, just regular damage isn't really going to hurt the armored enemies very much outside of those slash procs. So let's show off the Astilla first, and I'm going to show off both of these with Gara, just with her 2-up, as I think that's like a relatively normal way that these can be used, because Gara is, just a good, generally very tanky, useful Warframe, and this is a fine way to show that off. We're going to have the enemies at level 180, so you can kind of get a better feel for this, as these weapons are not like total garbage or something where I need to chunk this all the way down to like level 60 enemies or something like that. They can absolutely clear level 180s. So let's get into this. Throw on the 2, and then like usual, tests like this, you are going to want to kill the Ancients first because they get that 90% DR. You can see that the AoE is helping pretty considerably here, especially with like the heat procs that we get here. It's going to do a lot of work for taking these enemies out and crowd controlling them. And our Aegis has not activated once yet, which is very unlucky, but not needed. There we go. Finally pops, and now we're basically invincible. Obviously, normally you would probably want to have any form of healing on your Warframe. And in this case, I do have healing on my operator, but just showing it without that, of course. And yeah, that's the Astilla. It's not particularly impressive. It's fine. It's better than a lot of primary weapons, especially The more outdated ones like the Selma Prime and, you know, all the whole host of outdated primaries that are just single target, that this easily surpasses just by being multi-target and having halfway decent stats. And even the regular Astilla can kind of pull that off. It is already an above average weapon. Now moving on, let's talk about the Volnus. Now the Volnus, in comparison to its regular version, is really not much different. We have 2% more critical chance. We have 0.2 more critical multiplier, and if this was above a 2x already, that might be more impressive, but that puts us at a 1.8x crit mult, and we get 4% more status, and we only get 30 more total damage. This weapon is, plain and simple, just not great. The stats are like painfully low, all things considered, and it's a hammer. And a hammer really doesn't have access to good stances, like whether or not you use Crushing Ruin or Shattering Storm, and Shattering Storm I think is the better of the two. You're kind of in a painful area because you're just not going to get those like guaranteed slash procs all the time like you will with a lot of the higher tier melee weapons. And even though this is a slash weighted weapon, which will make it better than a lot of regular use hammers, because you are going to be getting those slash procs more often just because it is weighted that way, it still suffers in terms of the overall melee weapons. And for its heavy attack build, it doesn't have the built-in additional multiplier that the Fragor Prime does. So it's basically completely useless in comparison as a heavy attacking weapon. If you want to use heavy attacks with the Volnus, I would really advise you go with a hybrid build utilizing Xeneric and what is that mod's name? And Focus Energy in order to get the maximum amount of efficiency for your combo so that you can heavy attack often at much higher multipliers, which will even it out a little bit more closely with something like a Fragor Prime while still being slash weighted. That being said, nothing can really fix stances that aren't trying to help you, and that's kind of the whole thing. You can, if you absolutely feel the 100% need to bring this into Steel Path for whatever reason, you can go Weeping Wounds and like Primed Fury and Gladiator instead of Drifting Contact in order to get like the Gladiator combo duration mod, just to get like that little bit more out of everything that we're doing here. But it's just not worth the effort that you'll put in to do that in general. And I think that just going with a very basic viral build is going to be more than plenty for what most people want to use this weapon for. And what I think most people will want to use this weapon for is that it looks really cool. I think it looks great. It's a fantastic looking weapon, but it really is just nothing special whenever you look at like kind of the grander scheme in terms of what is available. So let's jump in here once again, throw on R2, and get to work. Obviously, we want to get rid of the Ancients first. Oop. Ouch. They are level 180, I suppose. Try that again a little bit more carefully. Yeah, Gara not being immune to knockdowns is not helping me here. Also, you can knock yourself down with the Astilla, because it is an explosive weapon, technically, so if you shoot it too close to yourself and you're not using sure-footed, you will still die. Or you will still fall over, rather. Knockdowns can be very deadly, of course. You can see that like the damage is perfectly fine. Honestly, the Astilla probably does this test better. As long as you're, of course, not using prime sure footage and everything, but you know, it's fine. It's fine. It's perfectly okay. Just to show it off with like, if you're going to be using a melee weapon, you're probably using prime sure footage. So we'll throw that on real quickly, just to do that. We're not going to need either of these. Just throw this in here, and you get more of a feel for like what a tanky Warframe that has knockdown immunity, which is really good, turns out, is like with this weapon, which is going to be more normal if you're using a melee weapon, kind of at all, honestly. or what you're used to on like a Rhino situation, or just any given number of other Warframes that are knockdown immune. Literally any Warframe that you've equipped Prime Sure-Footed on, for example. And it's, of course, a much smoother experience because knockdowns are the bane of any Warframe's existence, basically. So it's much smoother on that front. The knockdowns really do make you highly, highly vulnerable. So yeah, if you want to get in there on melee with this thing, it doesn't do enough damage at these high levels, of course, to make it so that you're going to avoid those knockdowns just by virtue of killing the enemies fast enough. So you're going to want to be one of the Warframes that doesn't get knocked down, or make your Warframe not able to get knocked down in order to utilize it. Overall, the weapons, there's nothing special going on with them. We haven't had an interesting Prime Access weapon since I think the Piranha Prime, which was in 2018. These have some slightly higher numbers and are overall fancy looking tools that are not very useful at all, which sucks. I really wish we could get back to, you know, having Prime Access weapons, like have special features. I think there's like the opportunity for like the Volnus to have been like an exploding glass hammer, where whenever you heavy attack with the Volnus Prime, it does like a big AoE or something and like has higher damage for its heavy attacks or something. When you have combo built, there's all kinds of like really easy glass themed specialties that could have gone along with this. That would have made this feel like a lot more of a special weapon as opposed just to a reskin and a slight stat bump. But as it stands right now, the weapons are pretty unimpressive, and like it shows just by interest in these weapons that you can see from like the platinum prices on the Warframe.market, that like the Volnus is already sub 100 platinum for the full set, and the Astilla is almost there as well. And considering this stuff came out like extremely recently, the price just absolutely nosedived, and it didn't start that high either. But yeah, some unfortunate weapons that do look cool, so maybe you can get some use out of them. And that's going to do it for this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.